Well, good morning, everyone. Today we are covering Module 13, Working with a Buyer, Part 1. And so before we get started, let's just do a little catch up on our last module. We don't have much inventory to do an open house. Did anybody have an opportunity to do an open house? So you did, David.
Well,
Awesome.
it's this Saturday. This Saturday, I'm going to help Terry's mother.
This upcoming?
This
Awesome,
Saturday, yeah.
awesome.
So it's really prudent that I go back through this and kind of get my head wrapped around what to look to catch.
Cool.
So.
Well, and hopefully, Olivia, are they going to let you hold yours open? Your new listing?
I'm holding it open tomorrow, Saturday, and for 2 hours on Sunday. They're going to be in a hotel tomorrow and Saturday.
That is fantastic.
And they're getting a hotel this afternoon because there's like 20 showings between 12 and 5:30 today.
Oh my gosh.
What's the price point, Olivia?
It's a 4-bed, 3-bath in, oh my God, what's the neighborhood, Heidi?
Stratford Lakes. It's my
Yeah,
neighborhood.
Stratford Lakes.
Yeah. Around the corner from me.
It's
Go, Olivia.
It's listed at 529. It's probably, it's gonna go for sure. It's a beautiful house. It's great. They added the upstairs had 2 beds and a loft, and they closed the loft to be a bedroom. It's permitted. The final inspection is this morning. The carpeting needs probably some replacing, but otherwise it's a great backyard, mature trees, shade, 2-car garage.
Nice kitchen.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So
Good job, Olivia.
Yeah.
I'll be there. All the open house times are there. So if any of you have buyers that you can't swing by with, I'm happy to, show them for you.
Awesome. I hope you have a fantastic open house. And I think that some of the stuff we're talking about today and just building the rapport and trying to get that buyer, to be your next client is something that open houses are one of the best ways of accomplishing that. And I built my business with open houses. And so I'm excited to hear that you guys have a couple going on because it's super hard to get them right now. And so how about your personal notes? Are those your personal notes? Are you getting good feedback on those?
Yeah, one, thank you.
Nice. How about Popeyes? Did anybody get out and do Popeyes and get any feedback on that?
I did them, but I haven't gotten any feedback. But I have to share this one story. So I sent a note. It was my husband used to be a middle school principal, and the staff loved him, and we loved his staff. And when he left to go over to a high school, a lot of us stayed connected. And one of the teachers has stayed in touch with Skip. He's retired as an administrator, and he has a sprinkler business. So he goes over and helps her, and she's got Parkinson's really bad, and she's retired, and it's really sad. So Skip was over there yesterday. I had sent her a note because she had asked a couple months ago, for my information. So I just sent her a note saying, Jenny, whenever you're ready, I'd be happy to come over and talk to you about what your plans are with your home and so forth. And she told my husband yesterday, she goes, Skip, when I die, I want Joanne to sell my house.
Oh.
And it made me so sad. I almost started crying. But she said, I want someone ethical. I want to know someone will do it right. And that was just a very touching. I mean, it was like Skip goes, she would be honored and I'd be honored, but it was just kind of, I'm going to meet with her in July and just kind of talk about her plans. But, she's not going to pass away anytime soon, but Parkinson's has hit her pretty hard. So anyway, that was quite a touching story.
That is a great story, Joanne. And it reminds me, that's what these relationships are all about. One of my A+ clients, her husband did pass away, but he called me and they had Michael and I come over because he wanted to have a meeting just to make sure that we would be available and help her through the process when she wanted to sell the house. And we did help her through that. It was about a year later after he passed, but we still go over there, and she was one of the very first people that we did a community breaking bread with after the big release, let's say. That's a wonderful story. And see, that's what these relationships, we're building relationships for a lifetime. Anybody else have any good pop-by stories that from the last couple of weeks?
I finally got a response from
Well,
one.
I say most of the time we don't. So I wanted to ask you this. We found that going on like Sunday afternoon, we find a lot of people in the summertime, like in their yards and stuff. And that has been really helpful to run into people. And we've been able to schedule just over the last week, a couple of like dinners with some of our wonderful, our favorite people, because we saw them at the pop-by and able to talk with them now. And we're knocking on doors again. We're saying hello. And we're being greeted. I mean, I was just delighted the other day. You know how you knock on a door and somebody answers the door and they're like, who's knocking on my door? They're kind of mad. And then the client opens the door and they go, oh, it's you. Yeah. And you feel like, yay, they're so happy to see you. And then the family comes. And I love that. I absolutely love that. And we've had that experience with these pop-bys over the last couple of weeks because we haven't been able to see people a lot. So we've gotten the opportunity to see people. We find that it's better on like weekend afternoons. So for actually catching people, which is really nice because they always want to invite you in. And then you have to say, oh, I've got to get around. I'm just really, visiting a few of my favorite people today. And I would love to follow up and set up a time that we could get together, maybe for coffee or lunch or whatever it is that you want, beer or drinks, or we're actually going to happy hour with some people over at the Butchery. It's the new restaurant over there in Arvada that's open from 4 to 6. And so we're meeting over there for their happy hour with some clients. But we set that up because they asked us to come in and we didn't want to do a plop by. And so we followed up then. I said, I'll follow up with some dates. And so we got those additional touches. So that's what I think you typically get as a follow-up from a pop-by is when you run into somebody and then you make arrangements to follow up because you don't have time to hang out with them at the time. And I think that's why it works really well.
Similar to that, on a Sunday morning, it's so hot, we have to take the dog out by like 7 a.m. And we were walking the neighborhood and all the neighbors on our street were out doing their yard work early. And we got to chat with a couple on the corner that I introduced myself to and gave it back in February. And it was great to meet her husband. They met Eric and she's like, oh, I remember you said you're a realtor, like keep in touch, always knock on my door. And she thanked me. I dropped by something, I dropped something last month and she remembered. So yeah.
That's a great story. And so the relationship builds. And you become the person that they want to see, not the person that the salesperson person. That's not who we are, which is what I love about the referral maker system, that it really does build relationships for a lifetime. And honestly, some of my clients, I've got one client that, and I think I've mentioned this before, but I was at the baby shower when she was going to be born. And she's like 20 some years old and it's multiple clients in the same family, but it doesn't go away. A lot of times you're their realtor for life. And I like to think of it that way, realtor for life. So anything that you guys, let me just ask you this. How are you doing with entering your stuff in the CRM, your tracking?
I'm always a little delayed on it.
Mm-hmm.
I try to get it in there, but it's one of my weaknesses. I think we've talked about this on our one-on-ones. I just keeping that organization,
Mine too. My coach is helping me with that. Anybody else? Because I noticed that there's a lot of like zeros, and I don't think you guys are not doing. I think it's not tracking. So as the instructor, I can see on my side, but not who, just how much is being done. So I'm not looking at each and every one of you saying, you doing your stuff or not? No, I'm not doing that. I know that my coach is working with me to help me track better because it does take effort to do that. And it's hard when you're really busy to stop and do things. So what I found is really easy is if you use the actual referral maker app. Do you guys use that on your phone? Then if you go in there and you go to their name and like you're going to do a pop by or a call, and you call through there, or you go, directions to their house or whatever, push that button, it automatically prompts you to complete. And then if you do a phone call through there, it prompts you to do that. So the more you go through the app, the less follow-up extra work you're going to have to do. Does that make sense? So I'm learning. My coach is really helping me with that. So I think is everybody's challenge, because I've been in the business a long time, and that's one of the first things he's helping me with, and calls. So yeah, I don't think it really changes if you're in the business. I have like 35 years versus some of you are a year or less than a year. It's still the same challenge, keeping up with your CRM and your data entry, and keeping it all up to date, and making your calls. You can't really hire somebody else to make your calls for you, but eventually you can get some help with keeping your data up to date. But it's easier just to do this, because even if you have somebody else that you're telling, it's still another step for you. So anyhow, so I think that is something that we can constantly work on, because it's a hard thing, and we all struggle with it. So I think everybody on here has had the chance to work with buyers. Yes. And what we know is that it's hard right now. And I love this video, because it's what our market, what we really want it to be like again. A really busy market, but yet there are like listings in different neighborhoods that you can provide. Like, oh, we're going to see this one over here, and this one over here, and we have this one over here. I mean, that would be really great. And I look forward to when we have that inventory issue. But I find that most people, when they first start working with us, we get out there and we show them what's currently available. And then it's kind of like an as it comes, as quickly as possible situation, right? So, and Olivia's getting her internet fixed up. So are you having luck finding properties to show your buyers?
There's plenty of properties, just so much competition. We can't compete at all right now. I mean, I know we're getting outbid, and even on these really low ball properties up in Fort Collins and Greeley that probably are not worth more than $300,000 are going for like 350, 360. I'm like, oh my goodness, it's crazy right now.
Yeah, that's true though. We are starting to see more inventory though, across the board. Excuse me.
Yes.
I think that's one of our biggest challenges though, wouldn't you say, in our industry right now with working with buyers, is an inventory issue and a cash flow issue, because buyers have to have so much cash right now to win the deal, to pay over appraisal, that it makes them, it puts them in a difficult position to compete if they don't have a lot of cash. Like I know, Ray, you've got a buyer that has what, about 5,000 to spend for appraisal. And that's just, I mean, even when you're looking at $300,000 houses, the average in the industry is going to be 30,000 over with that. So that buyer is going to need to know that. And also and I'm sure they are looking at things that have been on the market a while, but it's going to have to be, they're going to have to make a concession.
Yeah, we're looking at stuff. Finally, they're getting it. That stuff that's been on the market for a while. And even they're like, why has it been on the market for, 12 days? Is there something wrong with it? I was like, well, maybe, but we'll go take a look at it,
With I would say right now, with all the holidays we have, I would give it an extra weekend.
Yeah.
Because we've had listings that didn't go the first weekend, but still went for our target amount the second weekend. After 2 weekends though, in this market, I say there's probably something going on. But it could change in a day, you guys. In my 35 years in the business, it never stays neutral. It just is one way or the other, and it changes really fast. So we could see, and as we just keep your eyes on it. And I've seen it coming across in the different news feeds, a little more inventory, a little less demand. And yes, I do think some of that is because some of the buyers have been just frustrated out of the market. And they may come back later, and sellers who are finally able to maybe see some light that are putting their properties on the market. I'm seeing more signs. Are you seeing more signs in your neighborhoods?
Yeah, I had 3 properties pop up in the Lackamora area, and they're all under contract.
And so when we're doing our pop buys and talking to our people, they're like, yeah, there were no homes for sale, but now there's 3 or 4 signs in the neighborhood. So our clients are noticing it too. And eventually some of those people are going to cycle out, those people and all the competition where you'll be competing with 2 or 3 people instead of more. And then eventually you might even get a chance to think overnight. Imagine that. Right.
We have an offer. I'm waiting to hear at 12 today, but that's exactly what we went for a house that had been under contract and then it fell out. And we let it go over the weekend and it still wasn't under contract by Tuesday. So we wrote an offer and yeah, they had to make some concessions. There are some updates that need to be done, but it's in a great neighborhood. In this case, we went 10,000 under list price. So we'll see.
Hey, let us know. Because
Yeah.
you might get it. You might. See, you
Yeah.
might.
Exactly. It's their 7th offer. So let's just.
Lucky
let's just
7.
hope.
Lucky 7.
Joanne, that's, I gotta be honest with you, that's nice to hear. Not that it's your 7th offer, but I'm in the same boat right now. I think we're going on our 6th or 7th offer this week.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at a bunch of houses up north and hopefully we'll find something. So,
Yeah.
It's, I'm glad, I know I'm not alone in this, but it's good to actually talk. to
Oh,
someone.
yeah. My brother,
It's
who's been in
frustrating.
it for 10 years, last week, I mean, he's like on his 5th offer for one of
Yeah.
his clients, because part of it is you can only go so far, right? Your clients have that threshold.
Yeah.
And I just, I think with this one, what's beautiful about this one is I know the neighborhood, I know the value that they could potentially have in that home. So it will only go up versus some of the other ones. They've been putting offers in really high for that neighborhood. And that makes me nervous. So yeah, it's just persistence.
And then I think that's what it takes. And, whether it's a client or an agent, there is a key to success. Do you know what that is? The key to success?
Never give up.
That's it. Don't quit. That's it. Whether it's a client or an agent, that is the key to success. And I learned that in one of my very first CRS classes. The key to success is don't quit. And so, but that's harder for buyers and sometimes it's hard for agents too. But I know lots of agents who have gone a long time before they found success, and then they found success at an incredible level. So yeah, don't quit. Don't quit.
I'm going through this little ebb and flow. Like we don't get our offer accepted, but it looks like we're pretty close to the top. And then I'm down for a day, and then I regroup, and I'm like, "We got this. This is the week. We're doing it this week. It's happening."
Totally.
It's like one day of like feeling sorry and how terrible am I, and then I just pull myself back up out of it. I'm like, "We got this, guys. We're gonna do it this week. This is the week."
Well, I like your rule, and that follows. I have a rule. It's the 24-hour rule. Whether you lose a client or you lose a deal or whatever it is, something goes bad, you can mourn for 24 hours and then
Move on.
Yeah, move on because it doesn't help. And you never ever want to go back and see if they bought a house and stalk them. It never helps. Just but sometimes it hurts. So, but if you try to move on, it does help. And just know there is not one of us that's immune from that. So it happens. So going through this module though, there's always some things. We're working with some clients, and one of the things that I really noticed that he talked about that I think is very important too is that you really don't go out and show anybody property or anything like that unless they have been pre-qualified, pre-approved. And he called it real estate malpractice, right? Because, and he used the Maserati as an example. If they can afford only a Kia, but you start out showing them with Maseratis, you've set them up for disappointment and failure. And that's how it's real estate malpractice. We want our people to be happy, enthusiastic, and whatever their stepping stone is, we want them to feel like that is a wonderful and amazing thing for them, right? And so that's one of the things that is really important, is that we don't start by showing them or presenting things that are way over their ability to achieve. Then they just get depressed, right? Yeah, have you ever done that? Have you shown somebody a house, or it could even be it was just a little higher than they wanted to spend, and then they compare everything else to it, but they can't get it?
Yeah, I think the other fallback from that is if they're not pre-qualified and you're showing them houses, even if they can afford it, they still don't stand a chance. So they might fall in love with a house and now you're sorry.
Break their heart.
Fall in love.
That's true though. And I've seen a lot of people in our current market, agents are really lowering. So if they're qualified to 500, you're showing them to 450 because we know that they need that extra room. Yeah. So if we show them at the top of their dollar, it's going to go for more, right? And they can't afford it. So it's something we have to do. And that is knowing the market and being the professional to help them through. They can't do this really on their own. But you're the one that's supposed to know the market. And Joanne, we will see you next time. Good luck with your buyer appointment. Bye-bye. And so every time that you're out there and you're showing buyers, you're also learning about the market, right? And so it's never a waste of time when you're out there. Your buyers, and if they stick with it and they're in the game, they will win. But you're winning every day that you're out there in the market becoming an expert because you know what's going on. And it does change so quickly that if you go out of town for 2 or 3 weeks, you actually have to catch up on what's going on in the market. So that's pretty amazing how things change in our business. It keeps it interesting, and it also, there's never a dull moment. So another thing he said about asking a lot of questions. Did you notice how he was also digging levels deep, like when he was talking to them about they wanted a pool? And he was like, well, what if we found a house that didn't have the pool, but it had a neighborhood pool? Would that work? That's the same type of thing when we're digging deep, when they say, well, I need a big yard. And you say, well, tell me more about that. Why is it that you need a big yard? And they'll say, well, because, we want to be able to play ball and stuff with the kids, or that we have big dog, whatever it is. So if we found a home that had a park or a dog park or something nearby, would that be a possible concession if we could find everything else? So when you look and you really find the why behind what it is that they're asking, and you dig deeper and deeper, then it really helps you pinpoint that right property. Because it will happen where you are the person that is looking for the right property based on the criteria that we talked about: location, price, condition, and it's not just being available. Because right now, when you look at a property, it's like, oh, it's in your part of town and it's not under contract. Do you want to see it? I mean, the list gets really low when you have no inventory. But it gets more fun, I promise, when we get to actually do more of the searching for them. And I want to share that when I do business planning classes with people of all experience levels, one of the things that we talk about when we talk about providing value is in the new home search. If you just allow them to do their own search online, where's your value? You have to understand what it is they're looking for. They don't know how to read our data. They can look at listings and stuff, but we can see between the lines. We can find the right property if we know what they're looking for. So agents who act as a concierge, even though their people are getting the properties emailed to them, they may also say, hey, I noticed this property meets a bunch of your criteria. Be sure you notice it today. So that you're involved in that property search and not just waiting for them to say, hey, we like this one or we like that one, because then your value is very, very diminished. You actually are instrumental in finding the right property when you know what they're looking for. And that's why the needs analysis and understanding what is important to them is so good. What did you think about his little document, the pathway through the process? It's just an easy 2-page document. I was thinking that was pretty easy.
Yeah.
It's nice. And then giving them the mistakes that buyers make at that initial interview. And what about the buyer questionnaire? Have you ever filled one out yourself?
No.
I mean, it's like a discovery sheet in the past, but yeah, I mean, it's good because it makes them come together and have a meeting of the minds. Because, if you have just met a couple on site and you're asking those questions, you don't know who's wearing the pants and who decides which pants, or, you know what I mean? You don't know their dynamics between
and it's
the
always
decision
different.
making.
That's true.
And so if you can get them to kind of come together, and then that you can hold that line as like a spot to really bounce the right information off of them from. You know what I mean? Like the approach, the way to pass that, convey that channel, however you want to look at that.
I like the idea of giving them each a questionnaire too, because everybody has a different style, and then you'll be able to identify some of the things. And you see that on TV too, even though those shows are really set up, but you still see it where this person wants one thing and this person wants completely different thing, and they have to come together. So we do deal with that. So it's important to know. But I think it's also a great exercise when he suggested that we go and fill out the buyer questionnaire ourselves. So we actually know the thought process of our buyers as they're going through it. So rather than just handing it out. So that's an exercise to think about. What else really stood out to you with the buyer module? Anybody have any comments on things that were like, oh, okay.
I just liked his, I liked his, like watching his presentation. It's like looking in a mirror. It's like exactly what it's not exactly what I do. He was really smooth at it. I think I have my cousins coming in, half of my cousins, as in there's 2 of them coming in today and the other one's coming in next week. And I'm going to use some of that stuff I saw and have a good chat with them. So I mean, I definitely thought it was definitely helpful for sure. I mean, I'm, you know, I feel like that's all I've been doing is buyer stuff, but it's nice to see it coming like an actual presentation for sure.
Did you get the idea that he was like real, like a real person talking to somebody?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, me
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's not like canned and perfect, or, you know, he's just real.
I also think I instinctively knew this, but to hear him put into words, that you know, like if a buyer like really hates a house, that's a positive, you know, because then you know what they don't like. I think I knew that, but just to hear him put it into words actually was like really good to hear.
That's awesome, because it's a learning experience when you're going out with them. And if they don't share with you, especially when you will get to the point where you look at 6 houses in a day and like, do you want to make an offer on one of these?
Mm-hmm.
And so it really does matter when there's to learn what they like. Oh, I hate this layout, or I really don't like this kitchen, or, you know, you're not going to hurt my feelings. I'm learning what you like and don't like so that we can find
So
the best.
my cousin, I sent my cousin a house to look at, and I thought it was perfect for them. It was a definitely learning experience that I have no idea what they wanted. She's like, this kitchen's horrendous. And I'm like, this kitchen's magical. What are you talking about? I didn't say that to her, but that's what I was thinking.
Right.
I was like, so what kitchen are you looking for?
Say?
Well, she just sent me pictures of the type of kitchen that she likes. And I was like, wow, this is a great kitchen. I totally have no idea what you're looking for. I mean, I didn't say that to her directly, but in a roundabout way, I said, well, show me the kitchen that you are looking for. Like, can you send me an example? Yeah.
That's awesome. And because you haven't had a chance to get out with them personally. So being able to do that online that's a great skill to start with for sure, right?
But my initial reaction was like, I'm offended. This is a great kitchen. I thought I sent you the perfect property.
Okay, so remember, we cannot get personally involved.
I know.
And you never want to tell somebody, oh, this is ugly, because they might love it.
Of course, yeah.
I run into that many times before. I learned to just zip it.
Less is more.
Yeah. But I did have a buyer where we were in this house, and it back to Highway 2. And it was a brand new house, and it was a great price. Of course it was. The yard was practically on Highway 2. And I just said, I don't want you guys to buy this house. It's like, this is not what I think that you want. And so let's leave. And that was me, the realtor. And I don't do that often, but I hated that house because of that. And did you see in the news like 2 days ago, a tanker went into the yard of a house right off of Highway 2? Right in that neighborhood, right there. I sent her a picture of it and said, this is why. I don't want you to buy the house. So usually I don't get that involved, but sometimes if you really do have an opinion. But some people, like I had one guy who was a firefighter, and he wanted to live on a busy road so that he could hear all of the action. Oh, it's like, okay, so we looked for homes on busy roads. So totally different scenario. He would have been fine with a tanker in his backyard. You know, gone out his fire truck.
It was Monday. Yeah.
Is he gonna be there forever? because the resale is not great.
Right, I know, that's a problem, but there are people though. It's amazing, there are people. So there's buyer for every house. And it's just a matter of pricing and, you know, to find that person. So how do you make the home delivery a ta-da experience, like Brian talked about, when they actually get it? And it's really hard right now with our 60-day post-closing occupancy agreements. I'm like, ta-da, you closed 2 months ago and now you get your house, yay, yay. How do you make it fun and special? Or do you have ideas, if you haven't had the opportunity yet, to have ideas on how you'll make it fun and special?
Well, I've always given gifts, but like a card or $100 gift card or something that they can go and spend on them and on their new house.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of like champagne and something like that. That's just a lot funner and more immediate. So next time.
You know, I think it's really cool. I've heard of some agents that do like a closing basket. I think it's a great idea with a pizza gift card in there. You know, it's got cleaning supplies and all that kind of good stuff, which I would love to do. And then we do the doormats and more, the personalized doormat, which we have to order and then deliver later. So it takes about a month to get that to them. But it is, they remember us every time they go in and out their front door. So I think it's one of the best gifts. And it's about $100. So they go in and pick it out. And by the time you're done, it's like $125. Well, that's not a cheap doormat. So they value it too. But I think that, that doing something special for the actual delivery of the house, like, so that's what he's talking about, when they take possession, because that's when they're either going to be happy or not, when they actually get it and they see what they got. And that's when they go through everything that's now theirs and everything that they didn't see that they find wrong, they've now find, and things like that. So you will likely hear a little bit from them, especially if we have these 60-day post-occupancy agreements, but the walkthrough was done 60 days ago. I think there could be some issues sometimes. And so we're just going to be aware. But to make that a ta-da experience, I think it's a great idea when they're getting positioned to maybe take a pizza gift card or a little cleaning vest or something like that over to them. And we're incorporating some things like that. But what do you do to make it special? It isn't necessarily what it is, but that it's you and that it's unique and that they feel that it's fun and that they're special. So what do you do? So just think about that. And lots of different people have done lots of different things, but this is a way to make yourself really stand out. And so homework. Everybody has everything done, right? For the last 5 weeks or so? No, me either. I know. So I like it that he gave us the opportunity to catch up. I wrote in, catch up on my qualifying calls and my re-qualifying calls. I'm still working on that. And I'm excited to hear about the open houses you guys have coming up. So both Olivia and David.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if anyone have an open house A-frame I can borrow. I don't know if I need to get with Terry and see, like an open house A-frame, you know, or some sort of open house sign. It's
For
an
the front
apartment.
yard?
David, you're in Westminster, right?
Yes, I'm here in Westminster, Broomfield. Mhm.
I have an open house flag that you're welcome to borrow.
Okay, yeah, that would
It's
be
really
cool.
nice. Definitely draws in attention. I'll bring it in. I'm gonna go into the office later today. I'll bring it in and.
Okay, yeah, I'll
Go,
be around
Sean.
then. Thank
That's
you.
awesome.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for that. So I'll tell you a story before we get off. It is, you know, if you're all caught up, you add 5 people to your database, but that, you know, is something that we're doing all the time. And I noticed that when you have a coach, you do tend to do a little bit more of, at least with me and Michael for sure, because you've got somebody that's really holding you accountable and watching you. And so we had the opportunity this week to go in to meet a new banker. And we were transferring some of our accounts and setting up some of the fee systems actually with this banker. And so Michael, and it just as smooth as could be, asked him if he had a realtor that he referred his business to. And he said, no, he didn't. And he's the banker at Bank of the West. And he said, we would love to be the realtor that you are referring to. And he said, I would love to refer to you with all your experience. Give me a pile of cards. And so then we did the little personal note follow-up and stuff, but you never know, right? You think that you're going to go into the bank and talk to the banker who does the loans, and they're going to have somebody to refer to, but they don't always. So don't have a limiting belief. Always ask, because he could have said, oh yeah, my sister's a realtor. And we could have said, well, that's great. What's her name? Maybe we'll run into her someday and do a deal together. So it never has to be uncomfortable to ask.
Right.
And Michael is an S, by the way. He's the shy one. So when he gets out of his comfort zone, it takes effort. So I gave him kudos, pat on the back, good job. And you got to have that, because it's the thing that is the hardest to do that probably gives you the biggest reward. No. And that's for all of us, no matter what. Anybody else going into this week? So next week is part 2, working with buyers. Anybody working out with buyers this week? Ray, you probably are. Okay, we got some people. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking. I got a few houses to look at on Friday, tomorrow.
Well, I hope that you have some great experiences. I hope we get some successes, and I hope that Joanne hears about her offer and that she wins. So be good to hear.
I had a weird, a fun experience. I looked at a house 2 days ago in Greeley, and I was looking at all the paperwork online, and I noticed the buyers' names, and it's Neil and Judy. And Neil is from California. He was our pastor, and he married my wife and I. I haven't spoken to him in 19 years, but I was like, what a small world. I knew he had a son that lived in Greeley, so. I think he bought that. It comes out they bought the house for the son when he got divorced, but they're selling it now. So
small world.
Small world.
Very small world.
It's an interesting house, though. Very interesting. 1882, very old. And
Cool.
updated, but so fun. You could walk through one of the room closets and end up in the hallway.
One of those, yeah.
Yeah.
Those were fun to play in when you were a kid.
Oh yeah.
Hide and seek, yes. My grandma lived in one
when
of
I
those.
got off the phone call with my client, I played a little bit. I'm not gonna lie.
Nice.
I might have walked through a couple closets just for fun.
Yeah, I love your enthusiasm. You have to be fun to work with, right?
Yeah.
One other thing I noticed in the resources was there was the open house, the role play video, but also the follow-up after an open house video can be really great. And you notice in his role play that he was doing that with video. So it's kind of FaceTime and video. So something to keep in mind, because we don't always give the right tone of voice and inflection and all of those things when we're texting. Especially if your personality that's like mine, that tends to just do things kind of short, we can come across short. So video is a good thing. And I actually am signing up for BombBomb on my Buffini account. And so I'm going to learn about it, and we're going to do it too. So I'll let you know.
I signed up for their next round too with them for the CRM this morning.
Awesome.
So they're going to give me the mailers and the postcards as well.
That's great. So we just reached out to our roofer that is in our business to business group to do the co-branding on the mailer, which doesn't cost anything. And I was talking with his marketing person, and they're so excited. She's like, well, would you put me on your mailing list too? Yeah. Absolutely. So that's our first one. It's going to be fun. So
Cool, Heidi.
well, I can't wait to be able to connect next week. I hope you have a fantastic weekend and don't melt. I hope you have great open houses, and look forward to hearing about your successes next week.
Excellent.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Appreciate it, Heidi.
Thanks again, Sean.
Bye.
Yep, and
Yeah,
Heidi.
you bet.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.